Have you ever wondered if budgeting just isn't for you? Like no matter how many times you try, it always falls apart, and you quietly blame yourself for it. If that sounds familiar, stay with me for a minute. Because the problem usually isn't your discipline or your intelligence. It's the system you are given. And once you see why, budgeting starts to make a lot more sense. In this video, I'm going to walk through 4 reasons budgeting fails for so many people. Then I'll show you 5 practical things you can start doing right away instead. Alright, let's start with why budgeting breaks down in the first place. Problem number 1. Budgets assume you're the same person every day. Some days you wake up with a surprising amount of energy. You get out of bed without forcing it. Making breakfast feels easy. Planning the day doesn't feel heavy. You move through the morning feeling like things are under control. And then there are days that feel completely different. You wake up already tired. You feel a bit zombie-like. Not in a dramatic way, just low energy, moving through the day on autopilot. So you grab food on the way home, or buy something small online just to make the evening easier. If you've been there, you know exactly what I mean. When the tired version of you shows up, the budget has nowhere to bend. It breaks. Suddenly, you're staring at the numbers, in panic, wondering what you did wrong. And you do the obvious thing. You blame yourself. Problem number 2. Budgets treat money like a math problem instead of a human one. On paper, it all looks clean. Spend this much on food. Stay under this number. But money isn't spent on paper. It's spent in real moments. You're standing in a supermarket aisle, staring at a price that's a few dollars higher than last week, and you put it in the cart anyway because you still need dinner. Later that night, you're scrolling on your phone and buy something small online because the day felt longer than expected. Or a friend suggests splitting the bill a certain way, and you agree even though it stretches your budget, because saying no feels awkward. None of those choices are careless. They're ordinary. They're human. And most budgets pretend those moments don't exist, even though that's exactly where the money actually goes. So when things go off track, it feels like a personal failure, even though the system never really had your back. Problem number 3. Budgets depend way too much on willpower. Think about a normal day that's actually going fine. Nothing stressful, nothing unusual. You open your banking app and notice you're close to a limit you set for yourself. You tell yourself you'll be careful, and you genuinely mean it. Then a few small, ordinary moments show up. You stop for fuel and add a snack at the counter because it's inexpensive and convenient. Later, you open a shopping app to check a message and end up buying something small because it feels like a reasonable reward. None of these moments feel like breaking the budget. Each choice seems justified on its own. That's exactly the problem. Budgets assume you'll make the right decision every single time, even when the decision feels minor and harmless. Willpower isn't about big, dramatic choices. It's about saying no repeatedly to small ones. A system that relies on constant self-control eventually drifts off course, not because people stop caring, but because small decisions add up faster than willpower can keep up. That's why budgeting often unravels quietly, without a single obvious mistake. Problem number 4. Budgets don't recover well from small mistakes. It rarely collapses in one big moment. It usually starts with something small. One weekend costs a little more than planned. A bill comes in higher than expected. Suddenly the budget feels off. When the numbers don't line up anymore, checking them starts to feel pointless. So instead of adjusting, many people stop looking and tell themselves they'll fix it next month. That's where things slide. Next month becomes the reset. Then it happens again. Over time, budgeting turns into a cycle of starting over instead of moving forward. It's like knocking a cup slightly off balance. A good system would steady it. Most budgets let it tip over. Completely. Now let's talk about what actually helps. Here are 5 practical changes that tend to work better with real life, especially on low-energy days. Solution number 1. Start with what you actually spend. Open your bank app and look at the last couple of months. Not to judge yourself, just to notice patterns. The same expenses show up again and again. Groceries, transport, subscriptions you barely think about. Eating out that still happens even when you plan not to. That's not failure, that's reality. Any system that ignores those numbers won't feel usable. Once you see those patterns, use them as your starting point. Set your spending limits just below what you normally do, not at some ideal number, and give yourself enough space that one off week doesn't knock everything over. Solution number 2. Make the system simpler than you think it needs to be. Most budgets are hard to follow because they are too complicated. They ask you to track many different categories and remember a lot of rules. Every time you spend money, you have to stop and think about where it goes. That gets tiring very quickly. A simpler system is easier to use. Instead of tracking a long list of small categories every day, start with a few big ones. Think of them as containers. Money for bills, money for daily spending, money for later. You can still keep details inside each one, but you're not forcing yourself to manage everything all the time. When you check your bank app, you should be able to understand what's going on almost right away. When a system is simple, you are more likely to keep using it. Even if you miss a day or make a small mistake, it's easier to come back to. Simple systems are easier to stick with, especially on days when thinking feels harder. Solution number 3. Automate the important parts. Automation means setting something up once so it happens on its own, without you having to remember or decide every time. If you're paid monthly, start there. Let's say $4,000 lands in your bank account each month after tax. You might decide that $200 goes straight into savings. Inside your banking app, you set a rule so that $200 moves to your savings account the day after you get paid. Once that's set up, it happens automatically every month. You don't have to think about it. The money moves before you get used to spending it. You can do the same with bills, rent, phone, internet, subscriptions. You connect your bank account once and turn on automatic payments. Each month, those bills get paid on their own. No reminders, no last-minute stress. If your income is irregular, the idea stays the same, but the setup changes slightly. Instead of a fixed date, you automate a habit. Every time money comes in, you move a small amount right away. That could be 10% or a flat amount like $50. You can even use a phone reminder that says, "Income received, move savings now." The goal isn't to be perfect. It's to make sure the important things happen first, before money quietly disappears on smaller decisions. Automation doesn't make you rich overnight. It just removes the need to rely on memory, motivation, or willpower. And that's why it works. Solution number 4. Expect things to go wrong sometimes. This part is about giving your money plan a little breathing room, so one small surprise doesn't knock everything over. Start by setting aside a small buffer. This is not a full emergency fund. You don't need thousands of dollars. You're just creating a cushion for everyday surprises. For example, you might aim to keep $300 to $500 in your checking account that you don't plan to spend. This buffer is there for normal life things: a higher utility bill, a car repair that costs more than expected, a medical copay you forgot about. When one of these happens, you use the buffer instead of panicking or giving up on the plan. Here's the important part. When you use the buffer, you don't see it as failure. You simply refill it slowly over the next month or two. Maybe that means saving $50 a month until it's back where it was. No rush, no punishment. If something goes wrong and you don't have a buffer yet, the rule is simple. Adjust instead of spiraling. That might mean spending a little less in another area for the rest of the month, or accepting that this month won't be perfect and moving on. The goal is not to avoid surprises. The goal is to survive them calmly. This isn't lowering your standards. It's accepting that real life doesn't follow clean plans. A system that expects small problems and has space for them lasts much longer than one that assumes everything will go right. Solution number 5. Adjust instead of restarting. When something runs higher than expected, don't throw the whole plan away. That's the key idea here. Let's say your grocery spending ends up being $100 higher than you planned. A lot of people look at that and think, I messed this up. And then they stop paying attention until next month. That's restarting. And restarting over and over is what wears people down. Adjusting is different. Adjusting means you look at what happened and make one small change. Maybe groceries were higher because prices went up. So next month, you raise that grocery number slightly instead of pretending it won't happen again. Or maybe you decide to balance it by spending a little less in another area. You're responding to reality, not punishing yourself. The important part is this. You don't need a perfect month to make progress. You just need the plan to slowly match your real life better over time. Small adjustments are easier to keep up with because they don't feel dramatic. And when you make small changes instead of starting over, progress continues quietly in the background. Restarting feels motivating for a moment. Adjusting is what actually works long term. When money is working, it often feels quiet. A bit boring even. That's usually a good sign. So if budgeting has never worked for you, that doesn't mean you're bad with money. Most of the time, it just means the system didn't account for tired days, emotional decisions, and being human. Which part of this felt familiar to you? Whatever it is, you don't need to panic. You're not bad with money. You just need a system that actually works for real life. If this was helpful, you can subscribe for more videos like this. Everything here is about making money feel a little less overwhelming.